In the webinar you're about to watch, myself and our special guest Harley J from the Harley J machine in San Diego, California, talk all about building your confidence on camera. Now, what do we focus on? Really the tech side of it. What camera are you using? What's your lighting look like? What microphones? What's your background? We know that those elements can be a lot to process. We wanted to educate you about those, but we also know that when you look better, you feel better, and that helps build up your confidence to allow you to send more videos. Take a look.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome. I'm so excited that you're here. We decided I'm gonna play a little pump up music this morning. And don't worry, it's the edited version. So nothing inappropriate's coming out here. I promise. I checked that beforehand. So welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm just gonna give it like 30 seconds or so to let people start hopping in. And then we have a lot. Got that beat drop. It's good. We've got a lot to cover today. So I'm going to go ahead and just start kind of cranking on this stuff right away. But welcome, 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 welcome. We are so excited that you're here. As always, if you're back, if you've been here before, welcome back. If you're new, great. You haven't missed anything yet. You're here right at the beginning. So a couple of QA things real quick as people continue to jump in. I would like to do the housekeeping thing. So let's talk about how you guys can communicate with us. There's two ways. You can look at the bottom of the Zoom screen, and most people know these now, but chat is one. So go ahead and start throwing stuff in chat. If you want to throw where you're joining us from, that would be awesome. We'd love to see where you're at. We get people from all over the place. Harley's rubbing it in because he's out in San Diego, California. So it's probably just 70 and beautiful, if I have to guess. Oh, Ola's out there in San Diego too. So we got some friends out there. We're in Colorado, but let us know because it's so fun to see where everybody's at. So use chat. Chat's a great place for the community side, right? Talk to people, throw ideas out, throw what's working for you. You guys learn so much just by using video and doing this stuff on a regular basis. Let us know that. We want to learn from you, so it's great for that. If you've got a specific question where you're like, I'm not the only person that has this, or I really need this to not be missed, Q&A is going to be the place for you. So click on that Q&A button because that's where Kelsey, our amazing tier 2 customer support rep, is helping us out. She knows more about BombBomb than arguably anybody. So if you've got questions, if you need help, use the Q&A there because it's a really, really good spot where she can help you out. And we can make sure we don't miss those. I always try and throw some space at the end of the webinar for Q&A as well. So if it's something important, we'll try and answer some of that stuff live. You guys know how that goes. It just kind of depends on how long we go. I think that's the big thing. Oh, the other one, I know I'm going to say this 5 times, but we are recording this. So don't worry. I know we're going to be flying through this. I've literally got 28 slides today. That's a lot. So we're going through a lot of content, and we have an amazing guest here that I am absolutely thrilled to introduce. You can probably already see him on the screen, but Harley J, how are you this morning, man?
Hi guys. Hi Kev. How are you?
Hey, good. It's so good to see you. So a little bit of context on who Harley is. So Harley is actually one of my best buddies. I've known him for 15 years, I think, which makes me feel old. But we met in Los Angeles doing acting stuff together. He ended up going to New York, did Broadway for a little bit, did some musical theater. Now he's out in San Diego and he is a real estate agent. So he's in the grind, like a lot of you guys here, just grinding it out every day, working through this kind of tough environment in the housing market, using video. He's a BombBomb user, just like a lot of you guys. If you're not, that's okay. But that's what we're talking about. We're talking about a lot of video stuff today. So I wanted to bring him on because he brings a lot of expertise in the fact that he's in it with all of you. He's doing the same things you guys are doing today. And also because of what we're talking about. We're talking about the technical side of recording videos. Harley is a musician. He's made some great videos. I'm going to show you an example in a minute here. So he's done a lot with the technical, with the cameras, the lighting, the sound, all these fancy things that we're going to go over today. So I wanted to bring that extra expertise in. So Harley, give us a quick rundown from your perspective. So excited that you're here, but give everybody a little context on who you are and what you're doing these days.
No, thank you. And yeah, like Kevin said, I use BombBomb. I use BombBomb pretty much every single day, like in my business. I originally, like Kevin said, was an actor. I lived in LA for a little while, and then I moved to New York and did some stuff in New York. When the pandemic hit, I was in a show on Broadway, and the show closed. And so my wife and I moved to San Diego. And we thought we would just move to San Diego and live here until like things kind of cleared up in LA and around the world, and got here and loved it so much that I was like, there's no way I'm ever leaving. And so so we've been here since like 2020, and I got my real estate license, and I when I got my real estate license, I got it because I saw that there was something missing in real estate. It seemed a little bit old-fashioned and archaic and kind of like, what do we why are we still doing things that are like 70 years old? And so now I lead a team called the Harley J machine. We focus on like between $2 and $4 million listings. And we kind of focus on like three different pillars. It's a process we call DECT, which is discovery, execution, creativity, and taste. And yeah, I use social media and video and BombBomb to kind of make my business happen. So
That's awesome. And I'm excited to hear you're going to bring so much context to this. So you guys know I love bringing extra people on because I don't know all the answers. So I'm going to give you my ideas, but bringing people that are in the thick of it right now, I think is so helpful. So let's go over this real quick. I'm going to give you a little bit more context on, I've told you why Harley's here, but I want to show you some examples of some of these things and how I think they're going to really play into our conversation today. We are going to talk for a minute here about the confidence on camera thing. The whole idea, the whole reason we're talking about the technical side is to build up your confidence. And whether we want to talk about it, it's always the elephant in the room. We're not all super stoked to record videos and send videos all the time. And that's great. It's human nature. That's real. We're all in this. So we are going to talk about that, name it, and then talk about how the technical side can potentially help you build up some of that confidence. Then we're going to lean into the meat and potatoes of this, which is the setting up your video workspace. And we're going to talk about lighting, microphones, cameras, backgrounds. We're going to talk about those logistical, technical things so that you can feel like, okay, I've got a good grasp on this and go over that. And then I've got a really exciting thing. If you stick with us till the end, we've got some new features to announce that BombBomb's coming out with that I think are going to be really, really awesome. So Vicky, I just saw your chat there. Is it possible to get a copy of the replay? You bet. We will be recording this. We will send that out usually within a day or so that you'll have the follow-up. And we are going to be sending the slide deck so you can review that visually. We're going to send all of this stuff because I know we're going over a lot today. So let me start off by giving you a little bit about why I asked Harley here. One, I just love spending time with him. Good guy, really nice, awesome. But two, I think he brings a really interesting context on, he does a lot of social media content. He has a lot of the gadgets, the tools, the fun stuff. And he also does simple, authentic style videos that we really preach here at BombBomb a lot. So I wanted to show you a couple examples of these just to give some context as we dive into this conversation a little bit more. So here's kind of a quick example of, you can see I pulled this off of his TikTok channel, but one of the ones he did for kind of a frequently asked question. And this is when he starts using the fun stuff to grab more attention from a social perspective. So take a look at this as a quick reference for that.
About one of the biggest mistakes people make when they're trying to sell their house: overpricing. It's a common blunder. People think if they price it a little higher, they'll make a little more money. Not always the case. When you overprice a house, it can sit longer on the market, and the less attractive it looks to potential buyers. Meanwhile, other houses in the neighborhood are selling like hotcakes because they're priced right. The buyers notice that your house has been sitting here for a minute. Now they wonder what in the world is.
All right, so you can see, so it's not an overly complicated video, but there's fun edits, there's captioning, there's those kind of pieces that are added into this, the music in the background, because it's of the avenue that we are sharing this on, the medium that we're using, which is the social media stuff. What makes you decide to do these kind of things when it comes to social, Harley? Is this research you've done? Is it just what you see works? Or what makes you kind of decide to do these style on a social perspective?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I first of all, I gotta make it somewhat entertaining for myself. Otherwise, I won't do it at all. So like if I don't think it's somewhat interesting or like I wouldn't want to know, then I'm not gonna talk about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I think like sort of, at least for me, the natural progression of this whole thing was like I started out just doing it on my phone, and then I dove deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into the absolute abyss of all the crap you can get like involved in all this. And I will still say, even like I've got all the expensive junk. This is always in your pocket. This is always with you. This is pretty much always still your best bet. But yeah, I got into this because I don't know if I'm like a real fan of cold calling or door knocking. And I knew I could still get business if I repeatedly did this kind of stuff online. And thankfully it's proven to be right.
He's not a fan of door knocking and cold calling, unlike so many of us that just absolutely love doing those activities.
I know, right? Like everybody loves it when someone unexpected that they don't know comes up and rings the doorbell.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to play this again. Sorry. All right, next slide. Let me show you the other example. The reason is I want to draw the juxtaposition of that Harley's got all that stuff. He can do all the stuff. He has the knowledge. He has the gadgets, but he's still doing these simple kind of videos. So this is one of his bomb videos that I pulled out of just him connecting one-on-one, trying to build that authenticity. So look at this as kind of a juxtaposition to that.
Hey, Candace and Zachary, my name is Harley J. I'm a local real estate agent in San Diego, and I was looking at properties in your area and noticed that your house was listed before, but it seems the listing has expired. So I was curious about it because that home is incredible.
So you can see, I mean, again, I'm not going to play the whole thing because we don't need to see it, but you get the idea behind it. Really simple. One take, just him making eye contact, talking to camera, all of those added pieces that were in the previous one stripped away because it's just real and authentic. And you guys know that style because that's really what we preach a lot here. Harley, one of the things I love that you brought up is I took a deep dive into really enjoying this. Since I've known you, you were the first guy I knew that had an iPhone. Oh. That shows you how old we were. How old we've known each other.
For real though.
But you've always been kind of a gadget guy. You've always liked the technology stuff. So it makes a lot of sense to see that you started doing video and then took a nosedive really deep into it all. What I want you all here to know is that's not what we're here to promote. We are not saying go buy all this stuff, go do all these things. In fact, we're kind of preaching the opposite. But we also want you to know what you're looking for if you are interested. And that's kind of the knowledge that we're trying to build here. So let's transition real quick here to the confidence on camera piece, because I do want to talk about this, but I want to leave plenty of time at the end where we can go through all the questions that I know you all are going to have. Harley, I know you and I have a little bit of a different perspective because we've done a lot of acting stuff. So we've been in front of people. So that side is there. Is this something that ever comes up in your brain, or is it pretty easy to grab a camera and record for you at this point?
Now it's pretty easy, but there are two major things I think that make it easy. And like, you can tell me if you agree or disagree.
Yeah.
One, obviously a practice. And I don't just mean like stand in front of the mirror and like recite stuff. Like practice to me, because everybody is worried about getting judged or failing when it comes to video and stuff like this. And so I look at it like the more you just do it and the more you actually get up the courage to post it, whether you like it or not, whether you like what you did or not, that's the practice. The practice is actually not just doing the work, but posting it. That's step one for me.
Yeah.
And step two is ease. If it's not easy and I gotta call Martin Scorsese for this whole like situation that I want to do, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
So it's all about ease. So I've tried to find as many little tips and tricks to make it as easy as I possibly can. So like if I get an idea or I need to make a video like that bomb one, I can just dive in and go.
Yeah. No, and I think you're spot on. And I was just looking at chat as well, going, why can't I see the speaker? Some people are having a hard time actually seeing our faces as we're talking. It's not on our end. Just make sure that you have the right Zoom settings on your computer, that you're not in full screen share. There's a couple of different options where you can view just the speakers, just the screen, or have a mixture of both. So take a look at that if that's something you're struggling with. But Harley, to your point, I think you really hit the root of the issue. And I'm going to throw up some common objections I've heard in my years talking with people here at BombBomb. It's nerve-wracking. It's nerve-wracking to put ourselves on camera and like throw it out into the world. I think the reality of that, you can see all of these fit sort of a theme. What I've learned the most is we all have some insecurities. We all have some things about ourselves that we don't love. And that's nerve-wracking. I think what's hard about video is we get to see those now. And we are looking at those directly before we send it out to anybody else, right? And I think that's a really hard thing. It's an insecurity. It's a vulnerability to go, I'm going to take all this stuff that feels like it's not the best parts of me and hope that people accept that stuff. That's a nerve-wracking thing. But what I want you all to hear, I think more than anything, is you're not alone. Look at the bottom 4 bullet points here. I'm not a video person. I don't want to look stupid. I have a face for radio. No one's going to want to watch a video of me. I have heard these a million times, and they all, to me, go to the same root of, I'm nervous to send something out and not know how people are going to respond to it. What I think is important for us all to realize in this, though, is that, yeah, you're not alone, that a lot of people are feeling these exact same things. Look at this. These are all quotes that I pulled from famous actors and actresses, right? Megan Fox, Reese Witherspoon, Johnny Depp. And these are just a few. There's a million of these if you look them up. They all feel the exact same way. And I think it's funny because we put them on a pedestal and go, you've trained a lot. You're an expert in what you do. These are attractive people from worldly standards. And yet Reese Witherspoon is still saying, I don't know who feels good looking at themselves, right? So if these people feel this way, of course we're going to have these insecurities. Of course we're going to have these sort of things. Now, my goal in this conversation is not to say now just forget about it and get over it, because for a long time we just said, don't watch your videos. Yeah, that's sort of a solution, but I don't think that's really getting to the heart of it. I think what I want you all to realize is that those insecurities, those pieces of you are actually what you make your videos so connected with other people. So for example, some of the things, I'll just throw mine out there so you can see exactly what they are. I've got this gap in my teeth. I've had it since I was 8 years old. It drives me crazy. It's the first thing I see in every picture. Now that I'm getting to the back end of my 30s, getting close to 40 here, this is going backwards. It's driving me crazy. I'm so insecure about it. And part of me is like, I just got to throw it out and just tell everybody. But the reason I think it's important to show this is because I bet you none of you on here, we've got almost 400 people that have joined this webinar. Not one of you has looked at either of those things and gone like, oh, who's this guy? I hate him because his hairline's going backwards. Oh, what an idiot with that gap in his teeth. Right? I mean, these are things that we put on ourselves and are insecure to send out, but no one cares. These are the things that make us human. The best example I can think of this too that I've used time and time again is, when's the last time, I mean, who watches the 5 o'clock news anymore? I don't know. But when's the last time you did watch the news and went, that's a person I want to hang out with. I want to get to know that news anchor more. Probably never. They have the lighting. They have the makeup, they have the hair, they have the scripting, they have everything as polished as possible. And guess what? It didn't build that connection. Those human elements, the things that make us us, are the things that really connect us on a deeper level. And so what I want to encourage you with today is this idea of entering the vulnerability and entering the insecurity and challenging yourself in that way. There is a kind of a magic number we found here at BombBomb, to Harley's point of practice, 8 videos. If you can get to 8 videos, there is something at that point that you start to go, okay, I can do this. This doesn't feel as scary. This doesn't feel as intimidating anymore. It's not a big number. That's not a lot of videos to send out. So know that it's not going to take 30 videos for you to start to feel comfortable. You don't have to be on the Broadway stage to all of a sudden feel comfortable sending videos out. You don't have to spend thousands of hours training to feel comfortable. 8 videos, right? So it's a small amount. I threw this quote up here from Brene Brown because I'm a Brene Brown fanatic. She's just the best. But she talks about vulnerability and that it's not about winning or losing. It's about having the courage to show up when you can't control the outcome, which really is exactly what we're talking about here, right? So I do want to challenge you all in that way to start this out, to go, you know what? We are going to feel uncomfortable a little bit in this, and that's okay. And I still want you to enter into this because there's so many benefits, and know that people want to get to know you because of you, not because of some person you think you should be. So let's do that. Now, the flip side of that is, I also know that human element is, if we don't think we look good, we're not sending that out. So we want to look as good as possible. And that's what's going to lead us into this technological discussion on the tools and the pieces and really trying to create our video workspace there. So Harley, do you have, I mean, this is kind of putting you on the spot a little bit, but do you have anything to add to that as far as kind of building up your confidence, anything that helped you in getting more comfortable sending out those videos other than just doing it?
Yeah, I think when I started to realize that, sort of going back to what you're saying, that like even Reese Witherspoon, Margot Robbie, Brad Pitt doesn't like seeing themselves. And so I start to think like, okay, if you don't, just like you said, it doesn't matter necessarily what you're insecure about, but do you have the energy? Do you have a little bit of passion coming out? Do you have some sort of story to tell? Do you look like you care about what you're talking about? Are you listening to understand, or are you listening to respond? And to me, that starts to like, especially in video, really start to like get in your head. And
Yes.
I think like you got it. You got to plow through and just go like, guys, nobody cares. Nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Yeah, the stuff that we worry about and stress about and spend 30 minutes trying to prep perfectly are not the things that other people are receiving. And you hit the nail on the head there. It all comes down to value, right? And the passion that you have in getting that across. We talk about human-centered communication a lot here at BombBomb, and it's that idea of thinking about the recipient as much as ourselves. It's really easy. I mean, in real estate, I worked in real estate for a couple of years too, Harley. It's really easy to be like, check, I did the thing. I sent the email. I did what I was supposed to do. And so often we're thinking about like, I need a closing at the end of the month. I need the income coming in. I need the deal. And we lose sight of the other person. And as soon as you do that, I guarantee your video is not going to be interesting. They're not going to care about it, no matter how good you look, no matter what you look like. So that value perspective, that passion underneath is such an important thing. I'm so glad you brought that up. So let's dive into this and let's start going through just kind of some general principles when you're starting to think about your workspace that you're building. So I did some do's and don'ts here. You can see there's a little bit of overlap on both sides. Number one, though, I think is a really important one in creating consistency. One of the things that I've learned is if I have to think about doing a video, I'll go, here's an opportunity for a video, and then I have to stop and plug in my microphone and get my camera set up and set up lighting and do all of these things to then record my 1 minute video. Guess what I'm not going to do? Record that video. It's just not going to happen. I'm going to type the email instead because it's quicker and easier and I've got a lot to do. So this idea of creating consistency, I think, is really important. Now, I know we don't all, especially the pandemic revealed this massively in my life. I was working in my bedroom. I was working in my kids' playroom. I was in the middle of my life. But if you can create a space for yourself that you can consistently have for you, I think it makes a massive difference. I was talking with my wife, her birthday was yesterday, and I bought her some art supplies and was like, I want you to have a section that's an easel that's ready for you to remove those barriers so that when you have the desire to paint, you've got a spot to go paint. Or when I want to record the video, I've got a spot to go do that. When we have the barriers, easy excuses, right? So create some consistency for yourself.
It's total like I think a lot of musicians are kind of thinking in that same kind of way. Like as I play guitar, if my guitar is in the case, it could be sitting right here and I won't touch it. But if it's just out on a stand, I'll grab it in the middle of like anything. So yeah, like I do think you're exactly right. Setting up a space that you go, this is where I record stuff. Even if you right now I'm in my dining room. So like this just happens to be the space that works fine. But yeah, if you can have a dedicated space and just as like a thing, the way that I think is a decent way to find a space with good light is again with your phone. If you come in with your phone and you're here, you obviously can see your reflection in the phone, right? And you're here trying to find the best light you possibly can. When you find it, now set your room up around the light. If that's possible for you, try to find the space with the light and then set up around good light. Does that make sense?
Love that. Yeah, totally. No, I've never really thought about it from that perspective of you almost let the space tell you where to work to a degree.
Yeah.
I think so often it's like we're going to make this is my corner, which let's be real, sometimes you have to do that. But that's a really interesting kind of secondary way that I've never thought about. How do I decide where to be and what to do and some of those sort of things. In fact, my wife and I built our office space, our back house. I was so excited to set up record. And the second I set up, I've got these massive, super big, bright windows behind me. And I was like, ah, crap. Like, well, that just backfired a little bit, you know? So yeah, if I would have done that, we might have set things up a little bit differently. So that's awesome perspective there. Some other do's, some quick things, use what you have. We're going to talk about a lot of products today. That does not mean go buy them all. It does not mean go spend a lot of money. It's because I want you to be educated on if you do want to take those steps, you know what to look for. You know the things to evaluate. So keep that in mind. We are not telling you to go buy a bunch of stuff. Use what you have, and then we'll go from there. Have fun. Don't stress about this. Don't allow this to be overwhelming. The goal, again, is to educate so that you can feel like you're more comfortable and more confident in what you're doing. Don't allow this to overwhelm you at all. Lean into your authenticity. I mean, Harley already talked about that with the passion. That really is, you could have the crappiest quality of video. If they can hear you and they can get your passion and the value across, that will be a million times more effective than somebody that has this perfectly produced video, right?
Totally. And sorry to cut you off, Kev.
No, you're good.
The authenticity, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like people think the video, if you're using video to get clients or sell or introduce yourself or create a relationship, I think people think like the quality of the video is what people will go like, oh, that's a professional. And to me, I go, the authenticity, the expertise, the knowledge, the information in the video, that's what sets you apart. That's the authenticity. It's not the fact that I used a $70,000 camera and, you know, that kind of lens. It's that the authenticity is what that will make you business.
Well, I think you brought up a really good word, professional. We hear the word professional all the time. Is this professional enough? Think about, what does professional even mean, especially if we're talking housing in the real estate world. I have met with really professional people who are wearing t-shirts. Yeah. And I have met with really unprofessional people that are in suits and ties. 100%. And we put these perspectives in our head of, I have to do this. I have to appear this way. When in reality, it's who you are. That's what they care about. Now, I'm not saying if you're a banker, if you're in the financial space, I know we have a lot of people in insurance and financial, you have a different level of expectation than a realtor, than a salesperson, than somebody that works in a SaaS company. That's okay. Lean into that. You know that. I'm not saying don't. I'm not saying like dress like a slob and that's fine. Do think about it. But the way I think about it from a professional standpoint is what makes you feel good. I always dress your confidence on is something I talk about all the time. Deion Sanders has a quote that says, look good, feel good, play good. I know the grammar's terrible in that, but it's totally true. He was flashy. He still is flashy as a coach. But I think that is true. When I feel good and I feel like I look good, you carry that confidence with you. That's what makes you professional. It's not that you put a certain thing on. If you don't feel good in a jacket, don't wear a suit jacket. If you don't want to wear a dress, don't wear a dress. Find the thing that makes you feel good in your skin, and that's going to make you authentic. That's going to come across as professional and real. So a quick overview on the don'ts here, and then we're going to jump into this. Don't overthink this. That's kind of summarized. I feel like we've touched on that a bunch. Don't spend a ton of money. We already talked about that. Don't expect perfection, I think, is a really, really good one in this. And I think we've covered really a lot of this in talking about the authenticity and the confidence. But I think so much we work really hard on this idea of what something should be that we lose sight of just what it is and what it can be and the simplicity of that. There's a great quote out there that's basically done is better than perfect. Right? How often do we want something perfect? Harley, we were talking about this yesterday with editing. You could sit and edit a video for hours and days and never get to where you want it to be. And then you're bored and then you don't send it. Versus I could record a video and send it and it's done and it's out there and somebody has the opportunity to meet me. So don't expect these to be perfect. No matter what things you buy, no matter what you invest in, no matter how you build this up, if you choose to do so, it's still not going to be perfect. Guess what? No matter how good my lighting is, no matter how good my camera is, my hairline's still going back. None of those are going to stop that. So that's just is what it is. So I can try and comb my hair a little differently. I don't know. But don't expect it to be perfect in any way. And then last but not least here, don't think you need to build a studio. I really don't want that to be the message that comes across today, is that you have to have these amazing backlights and all these neon lights and all this fancy stuff you see on YouTube. They're really cool. They're awesome. I think in certain sectors, if you want to be a filmmaker and that's your niche, then yeah, you got to show off what you can do. That's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to be real humans that connect with each other to build relationship, because relationship is connectiveness, which builds business. So much of our sales businesses that many of us are in rely on the connection we can build with people and the relationships and the trust that we can build. That's nothing to do with how fancy your studio is. So keep all those things in mind. The last thing I'll throw out here is build the habit to spend money, not the other way around. This is something I thought about as we were working through this, and I think it's just a really good rule of thumb. Let's not think if we go buy a bunch of fancy stuff, that's going to help us build a video habit. It won't. In fact, you're probably creating more barriers for yourself of things you got to set up and do to record the video. Instead, let's build the habit. Let's get to 8 videos. Let's start getting some responses. Let's start seeing the impact, and then go, man, I'm loving this. I'm really enjoying this. This is going to be a cornerstone of my business. I think I'm going to upgrade my camera a little bit. I'm going to go get a little bit nicer camera just to improve that, right? Just kind of a different way to think about it. So let's jump into this. And again, this is going to feel a little overwhelming, but when Harley and I were talking about this, one of the things I really wanted is that education side, for you to feel like we're going to give you some recommendations of actual cameras you can look at. But I also want you to know, what are you looking for if you go look out on cameras on your own? If you go to Amazon and Google webcams, what the heck am I seeing? You'll find anything from $30 to $500 in webcams. What's the difference in those? So a couple of these things to go over real quick is resolution's a big one. I think we've all heard these numbers to some degree, but don't necessarily know what they mean. Essentially, it's the number of frames in the video itself. So how crisp is that video? So 720p, used to be amazing. It used to be the best. Then we got to 1080. Now we're at 4K. Now they're introducing 5K. I mean, we're moving up and learning all of these things. Essentially, what you're going to want to look for is probably 1080p or higher. So 1080p, maybe 4K if you really want to get fancy in that. Do you need 4K? No, absolutely not. Nobody cares. The 1080p is what I'm using right now. Harley, do you know what your camera is?
I use my phone for a ton of stuff. I
Okay.
have this is called a Sony A7 III. This is a very old camera, came out a million years ago. This thing can shoot in 4K and do all the fancy stuff. Your phone can shoot in 4K. If you have like an iPhone 12 or higher, this can shoot in 4K. Not to skip ahead, but you'll see
No.
Kevin talk soon on frame rate. 30 FPS, that's 30 frames per second. Your phone can shoot in 30 frames per second. Your phone can also shoot in another, without going too deep. Frame rate has a lot to do with how cinematic or how natural your video can look. 24 frames per second and 30 frames per second look the most natural to a human eye. If you go higher or lower than that, things start to look a little weird. Um, but but yes, your phone can do everything Kevin is saying at the top, like the best quality you can get.
Yeah. So again, this is the point of you don't need to go buy super fancy stuff, right? You don't need to go over. I just saw a chat talking about color grading and those sort of things. So I believe it's Ree. Is that your name is pronounced Ree? I think so. We're not going to dive into the nuts and bolts because again, I don't think color grading is a bad thing at all. But are we creating more opportunities for us to send video, or are we creating more barriers to record and send video? It's different for all of us. So Ree, for you, maybe that is a really important step that you'll need to work on. And that is going to require some outside software, some other editing features. We're probably not going to dive deep into those things. But what I will tell you is when you get some of these type of things, when you're getting a 1080p webcam, when you've got 30 FPS or 24 FPS, which are pretty natural to Harley's point there, if you've got decent autofocus focal length, which a majority of decent webcams will have that built in, so you're not really upgrading at all. And then the light filtering piece, kind of to your point, Rhea, is something that's really good as well. It's the ability for the camera to adjust the highlight, low light, and read those differences and those sort of things. This webcam that I have right here is one that we will recommend that I'm using. It's $65 on Amazon, and it is a really decent 1080p, 30 FPS. It does the basic things that I need really clearly. I want to show you the difference if I switch over to just my built-in webcam on my computer. So you can see the difference here of what it looks like. Now, is it terrible? Can you still see me? Totally. It's fine in that regard. But you can see there is a vast difference in the color filtering, in the light filtering, and some of those sort of things. I have more of an orangey tint and that sort of thing. This is the one that's just built into my camera. So could I use this to record? Absolutely. But if it's something I'm leaning into, just to switch back here and show you that difference, like how much cleaner is that picture? It's because it's got the little bit better quality. It's got the better filtering. The autofocus is more improved on this piece. So if you start looking for cameras, if this is something where you're like, yeah, I do want to upgrade this. I don't want to break the bank, but I do want to upgrade some things. Look for these kind of measures. 1080p is a really good measure, and you can find it everywhere. So do that. Like, you don't have to search hard to find 1080p webcams. That's very stock nowadays. 30 FPS is great. And look at the autofocusing and look at some of that sort of stuff. I do want to give you some recommendations. Harley and I kind of went through a couple of different ones we've used. I did some research on this. Honestly, you can go to YouTube and look up webcam comparison videos and look at people comparing them and talking about them if you want more context. But these are some really decent webcams for decent prices. So the one I am using right now is the Logitech C920. So if you want literally 65 bucks, you want clean, it's an external webcam. And let me actually switch over because I want to show you what this looks like just for ease of use here. So it looks like this, just a little webcam. It clips onto the top of my monitor, so I can clip it on and kind of adjust where it aims and where it points to. It does have a built-in microphone. It's not the best, so I don't know that I would necessarily recommend using that. Try it, but this is a really, really solid option. It became so popular during COVID that you couldn't get them. They were so sold out all the time because everybody just leaned on this cheap, great option to go to. But you can see it's a really crisp picture, nothing fancy, but that's a great option. I wanted to give you all some other bigger options if it's something you're interested in. The Brio 500, the Brio 4K, right? So 4K, that's stepping up that notch when we're talking about the quality of it, the
Resolution.
there we go. Yeah. So that's taken that next step up. The ObSpot, the Insta360, those are all they're pretty little webcams. Some of them can actually move and follow you and do different things depending on the types of videos you're wanting to do. For me, honestly, and I do a lot of video, it's more than I need. I don't need to go drop 250 bucks on this webcam because I don't need it to track me. I don't need it to do these things. So I'm using the $65 one, but there's a couple of references there, and we will share some of this content again with the follow-up stuff. I'll share this deck so you can go back and review these. But is there anything else you specifically look for, Harley, when it comes to cameras when you're thinking about what do I want to shoot with?
I like, golly, I hate to like keep harping on it, but I always go back to like, is it easy? Do I understand how to use it? This, I think people sort of, you sort of get it. You turn it on and your phone's ready to go. This kind of thing, I understand how to use it now, but there is a learning curve here. There are some settings, you got to know how to use a camera. And then you can dive into things like different lenses and like reset, color grading, that kind of thing. So when I go to look for something, one, I want good quality, but two, I also go like, is it easy, and is the learning curve going to kill this whole? I'm excited to do it, but then when you bring home something and you go like, I don't even know how to use it now.
Huh. Yeah. Especially, and think about that's such an amazing point. I'm so glad you brought that up. It's fun to buy the cool, expensive one. That doesn't mean it's the best one for you.
Right.
Just because it costs more doesn't mean it's better for you and the systems you have. You were just showing your Sony, your DSLR. We have one as well. I spent weeks trying to hook that up to use for webcams casting. And to this day, I figured it out at one point. It never looked good.
Yeah.
And that's an $800 camera. I bought all the connections and cords and the million different things. And I was like, this is just stupid. This is just creating way more headaches for me than it needs to. So more expensive, better is not always better for you. Think about those barriers of entry. That's such a good point, Harley. Thank you for bringing that up.
Sure.
Let's jump to lighting. I would argue from a visual perspective, I would argue this is one of the most important aspects. Better cameras will help with lighting, don't get me wrong, but you can take a pretty crummy camera and really improve the quality of that shot by having lighting. So, Harley, you and I kind of talked about this a little bit. Natural versus artificial. What's your philosophy on that? And to clarify for all of you, natural would be like sunlight, right? Natural light. Artificial would be a ring light or an LED light or something along those lines that you purchase and you're creating, just to clarify those definitions. But what's your thought on this? How do you look at it from a lighting perspective?
That's great. I think some of it is not only what looks better or feels better or more natural to you, but also like circumstantial.
Sure.
So, like, for example, right now, I'm just sitting in my dining room and I'm using this. This is all I'm using, and it's sitting on a vase. Done. this right here is a small rig RM120 if you want it. It was $60, $40, something like that. They say that the time on this is like 10 hours. It'll go 10 hours. That's a lie. It'll go
just for battery charge.
Yeah. It doesn't last. Oh shit. It doesn't last 10 hours. But
your base, Harley.
Yeah. So I bring that with me sometimes. But just to give you an idea, so I think this looks okay. I'm not like ashamed of it, or I don't think it looks bad. But there is a significant difference. You can tell when you know what you're looking at, natural lighting and like studio lighting. So this is a studio light field, but the best light in the world is anytime you can get next to a window. It's not the greatest day out today, but
hey, I don't want to hear you complaining about sunlight in San Diego, Harley.
I know, right?
That's not fair. That's just not fair.
So this is more of like a natural light kind of thing. And you can see that there is a difference between natural light and studio lighting. It's just a different kind of thing. Most of the time, natural lighting is going to make your skin look really healthy and glowy and beautiful. So if I can, sorry, if you're all like, I'm about to throw up. That was
No, somebody actually just wrote, I love the West Wing style walk and talk. So
Right. We're
it's good.
going full Aaron Sorkin.
Yeah.
But here's like a little trick that I use a lot, especially if I am like if I'm in my car and I need to make a video or I have to send something to a client and the sun is kind of cruddy or there's just not great light. If you open up Google, just google.com and you get the homepage, immediately you go from this. It's an obvious difference, especially if you're in your car.
Yeah.
So you can manipulate the light with an iPad. I do it all the time.
Use what you've got, right? This isn't rocket science. You don't have to go get fancy with it. You can use the tools. My wife and I have done it with her phone too. I just pulled up like a white screen to your point with Google, and it provides more glow than you would ever think. So, as far as the natural versus artificial argument, I always lean natural. Harley, it sounds like you're leaning natural. There's something quality to it that's just a warmness. It gives you this glow. It makes you feel healthy. It makes you feel really good and clean. Most people are not going to really notice the difference in if you've got good artificial lighting versus natural lighting. But I always like if you have the opportunity to set up in front of a window. I did that for years. I love it. If you don't have that ability, I don't have a window in front of me. And this is where I had to set up, right? I couldn't let the room tell me where to set up. I had to set up where we could fit kind of thing. So I have artificial stuff. The placement is massively important. You have to make sure you've got front face lighting. Harley's been demonstrating it for you guys right there. He's got it up above. He's got it in front of him. You cannot stand with your back to a bright wall or a bright window or something like that. There's all these lighting techniques where you've got cool backlighting in that. Yeah, they can do that because they've got a ton of front lighting coming on them that helps balance that out. So even with this bright window, if I have no lighting on in front of me, it immediately changes it. So I've got a ring light in front of me right now. If I turn that off, I just immediately got darker. Now I've got other panels. I actually have a fun little setup that I like to play with. But you can see the difference right there is just, it gets washed out. You don't want to look like a 60 Minutes interview where you're trying to hide your identity. And that's what it looks like. You're this silhouette in front of a bright thing. Front face lighting is the key. Now, again, don't get fancy. I've done this with literally, I had an old desk lamp from college that I clipped on my desk and I used it because it was what I had right then that allowed me to record. Now, one of the things I did learn that I think is really fun is this idea of how do you soften the light? How do you control that? Because if I put a desk light straight on my face, oh my gosh, I'm going to be so drowned out. And I can't, I don't have a dimmer on something like that. It's an on-off kind of thing. So there's really easy ways where we all have walls in front of us. In fact, a lot of us have white or lightly off-white gray kind of walls that are surrounding us. You can take a very bright light, bounce it off that wall, and you will get reflection from that. Is it going to be perfect? No. Is it better than the direct light? Maybe. Play with those things. Again, this is just giving you the tools to use what you've got to try to be as successful as possible. So those are just a couple of things, but the front face lighting is the absolute must. You've got to have it. And the closer it can be to the camera, well, here's the one thing that we had to talk about. You've probably noticed it in my glasses. If you're a glasses wearer, you're dealing with some reflection. You can see that I've got the ring light and that sort of thing. So one of the things I've learned is if you can have it a little bit higher than your camera, if you have the ability to set that up and it's coming down on you a little bit more, that allows you to not get those reflections quite as much. Or if you can set up multiple lights that come from different angles, those are ways around it. But you've got to have it in front. It's just without a doubt, without an argument, if you can afford one light, get it and put it in front of you. Put it pretty close to your camera. It will improve. Let's talk a little bit about kind of ring lights. You talked about how you've got, that looked like it was kind of like an LED panel light. Is that right?
Yeah.
So you can get cool ones like what Harley just recommended that are battery. You can buy clip-on ones. You can buy them. They come with tripods. I didn't put specific ones on here because if you go to Amazon and search ring light, you will have 9,000 options of ring lights. You can get a double ring light set with different tripods. You can get a clip-on one. They can be this big. They can be this big. They can surround your camera. There's a million options, and that's for you to decide. That's what's right for you, right? Same with the panel LED stuff. I bought some of these for our office when we were back there a couple years ago. I bought they were about yay big LED panel. I could set them up on each side. They came with little tripods, and I was good to go. And I could work in a dark office that had no natural light, no windows, and it was fine. And it worked really well. So that is going to be probably the least barrier to entry option that you can go in, grab a ring light, grab it, hop in and do it. It works really, really well. And they're great. I mean, we're talking 15, 20 bucks. You're in the door, you've got front face lighting. It allows you to get a consistent setup no matter where you have to set up. So that's kind of what I want everyone to hear. If you want to go investment, here's some different options. Harley, you gave me one of these, the Emerald COB, and then the light box. I mean, this is, again, we're talking barrier of entry. If you look at that, it's just the light, and it's a pretty raw, bright light when you look at that setup. So that's when you're looking at a light box, which almost looks like sort of an umbrella that kind of comes off the end of the light, and it's got a filter on it, right? So that it's diffusing that light to make it more natural on you. Really fun, really cool to play with. We've done enough filmmaking to go, yeah, I like doing that stuff. Do I want to do that every video I have to record? Absolutely not. I'm not going to, right? So think about those kind of things. They're fun. They will provide a little bit better lighting than the $20 ring light, but is it worth the process to get into it? The other one I'll throw out here is the GVM RG8 kind of LED panel kit. I'm actually using a GVM kit right now. You can see, where is it? There it is. It comes with a stand. There's one, and then there's a second one over here. Why am I using these? Guess what? Because I got it for free and I could. Like, I'm not here promoting these products saying like they're the ones you have to have. They're easy to use. I like them, but do we all need that? No, I do it because it's fun and I enjoy the setup process. I enjoy that when I'm doing webinars and things like this. So there's a lot of really great options for you. I would recommend these ones. I like them. The one piece I would throw out there with any ring light, LED kit, any of this type of lighting that we're talking about is always make sure that you've got the white light and the warm light options. You've got to be able to adjust that content because when it's all white light, it is bright on your face. It is harsh. So these actually have white panels and the warm kind of yellow panels, and I can control how much of each is on, and I can play with that stuff so that I feel like I look better. Ring lights will have that too. They've got a warm light and then the kind of harsher bright light. So just, again, the ring light I'm using was 20 bucks and it has those options. So I don't think it's going to be rare for you to find that, but just some kind of good things to think about as you're looking at this stuff. What else would you throw out there about lighting, Harley? Is there anything that you have found that's worked really well for you? I mean, I love what you've said so far, but anything else to add to it?
Well, thanks. I've sometimes you can be sometimes it's outside or sometimes you have like whatever light source is available in your house. And if you set up your lights and you feel like, oh my gosh, I always look the term is washed out. Like you don't look like you stand out from the background. You just kind of look like a flat piece of whatever. A lot of times what you can do, and Kevin, you've probably done this. Like when you're an actor, you will get a phone call. The time to book a job is when you went on vacation. That's when everything happens. So I remember going on vacation with my wife and getting an audition. This was years ago. And the light from the sliding glass door, the light from the sliding glass door was awful, and it was basically the only usable light in the place. So if you're having an issue and you feel like I'm using natural light but it still doesn't look good, if you throw a sheet over it, sometimes like a shower curtain, a white, like as thin as you possibly can find, a white sheet. Muslin works really good. I got a sewing machine when I was, 25, and anyway, love it. But muslin works really good. Anyway, if you can hang up a white sheet or like sheer curtains over top of the natural light, it will instantly improve the video and the quality massively. It will soften everything up. It will make the colors even out. But something as simple as a bed sheet can be your best friend.
I mean, literally, we're doing what all of the fancy equipment does in just a less structured way, right? A diffuser, the big umbrella thing, is literally doing exactly what a sheet does. It's just in a fancier way of doing it. We're using what we've got to do that. So
totally. And that method is so good that I stole it from being on set on a movie.
Oh, well, there you go.
I know it works.
You heard it here first.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep cranking. We're gonna jump to microphones, and then I've seen if you're not watching chat right now, you got to be in chat. People are throwing awesome recommendations of things out. So people are talking about the Cube Edge Light. I've seen some conversations around gimbals, which is kind of a steady cam tool that you can throw your phone on if you're doing home tours and things. There are so many gadgets that you can get into. We're obviously not going to touch on all of them today, but look in there. There's some really cool stuff that other people are recommending. Don't miss out on those pieces. So, all right, let's talk about microphones. Harley, you and I were talking about this yesterday. The idea that I think we're less forgiving with sound in video than almost anything else.
Totally. Yeah, you're exactly right. And you might be able to say this, and now I'm going to steal it from you, and I'm going to try and take credit. If you're all looking at your screen and all you see is like the fuzzy, as if you're on a TV with an antenna and you don't get any reception, so you just get that fuzzy stuff, but you can hear us really clearly. I think some of you experienced this at the beginning of the webinar when you couldn't see us, but you could hear us. That's tall. I mean, in this situation, you got to see us because we're talking about light, but sound is more important than visual every time. If I can understand you and hear you clearly, most of the time, I won't care what it looks like. In fact, the screen can be completely black, but if I can hear you, great. Same thing. If you're watching a movie, it could look incredibly beautiful. If you can't hear it, the movie means nothing to you. Sound is almost more important than anything.
I think about it from a podcast perspective. Podcasts are massive now, and 95% of them are only sound because we can still hear that value. So the reason I bring up microphones again is not to distract and go, you got to buy all these fancy things. You don't. If you're in a quiet room, use your built-in stuff. As long as they can hear you clearly, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
But I will say that I think sound is one of the biggest things that will turn a potentially positive video into a really negative experience. It becomes frustrating. It becomes annoying, whether you sound robotic, whether it's fuzzy. I've gotten videos from people that happen to be like walking at the beach on their phone. It's like, I can't hear a thing you're saying because the wind is insane right now. So review that before you send it. But here's some things to look at when you're thinking about that, right? I already said, if you can close it, block out the sound, you might not need to go buy a microphone at all. And that's totally fine. But I want to show you the differences in some of the different microphones. So I'm going to switch these as I go through it. So this here, I don't know. Can you hear that difference, Harley? Did that change in what you're hearing?
I don't notice a ton. Sorry, did anybody else? I didn't notice it. I didn't.
Well, no, you're fine. I just switched to my built-in MacBook microphone. So there you go. I'm in a quiet room. There's nothing else happening around me. I'm in a quiet area. So this is my built-in microphone. I also have this other one. It's a dynamic mic, and this is called the Samson Meteor, Meteor, and it's Samson Samson. I'll show this on the next slide. I love it because it's really compact. It's really little. I can take it and travel with me wherever I go. And we're talking $40, right?
And it looks cool.
And it looks fun. Yeah, it looks all futuristic. If I switch to that, it now just a little bit better, right? So it just improves that to another degree. Now, you can see here, I've got dynamic mic. What they really work on is trying to pick up closer things and trying to eliminate the extra sound. That's really kind of how they're designed without getting into the semantics of using that. So really quick, $40, easy solution if you wanted to go that route. Now to ramp it up a little bit, still a dynamic, but now I'm switching over to the one that I use on a regular basis. It's called the Rode NT-USB. So it's a little bit bigger of a setup. It's got a microphone on it. I think it's about $150. I've got it on the next slide as well. It's a dynamic mic as well, but it's just a little bit clearer, a little bit crisper. You can see it eliminates, you don't hear anything in the background except what Kevin's talking about. So these are just some different versions, and I wanted to switch between these so that you could just kind of hear directly the difference in some of the pieces. But let's also think about this. There's also some of the questions I get all the time on sound is, what type of mic do I need? Well, these are dynamic, more sit on the desk, kind of you want to be close to them type of mics. What if I need to be moving around? Well, there's a lot of options. Number one, start with these. Your AirPods, your corded headphones, whatever you use, have microphones built in. It's going to be better than just using a generic built-in microphone on anything. Use them. These do a great job, surprisingly enough. I've been walking around outside, and they do a pretty darn good job of picking up you and eliminating a lot of the extra noise. You'll hear cars drive by, you'll hear some wind, but it's a vast improvement just by plugging in what I have.
So use these. These are a great tool, especially with iPhones, those kind of pieces. I use this with my computer all the time. If I'm at a cafe and I need to just plug something in, great, easy to do. So use those pieces. A shotgun mic. A shotgun mic is a little bit of a different style of mic, and we're not going to get into all of those, but it's more of a longer, it's kind of like a long tube that you see, a lot of times you'll see it plugged on the top of a camera pointing towards somebody or something like that. It's really built to get a little bit more of the flavors of sound, but it does narrow. So it's trying to eliminate the extra sound just like a dynamic mic does. I think you might know more than this as a recording artist yourself, Harley. Are condenser mics technically a little bit stronger, a little bit more sensitive than dynamic mics? I don't know really how that works.
Yeah. You're exactly right. A condenser mic will really, so a dynamic mic, like you said, kind of has like an area. Without getting too much into it, there is a thing called a polar pattern. Sort of looks like, sometimes it looks like a figure eight, sometimes it looks like a circle, sometimes it looks like a million different things. Anyway, that polar pattern is telling you what direction the microphone is going to pick up the sound. Sometimes it's front and back, sometimes whatever. A shotgun mic is usually straight ahead, and it is as focused as you possibly can get it.
Okay, so there you go, right? So we don't need to know all the ins and outs of every way a microphone works, but just some different options and terms you will hear if you start looking up microphones are some of these things. The other one I want to throw out there is a lavalier mic, which is what a lot of us think about, like a little clip-on mic that we can put on. It sits with us. It's not stuck to my desk. If I need to get up and move, I can. Again, a lot of different options. Harley, I know you've got a really good one that you recommended that we can talk about, but this is basically just allows for more movement. So you're not stuck to your desk like a dynamic microphone would have. It allows you to kind of move around a little bit. So I showed you the Samson Meteor. This right here is the Maybesta Wireless. It's like 25 bucks on Amazon. It plugs directly into your iPhone. You stick it in the bottom, and you've got a microphone that you can wear and use. So then you can set up your iPhone or hold it out in front and get the better sound. Just improve it for 20 bucks, right? It's not a big investment. I think is the Hollyland the one that you recommended, Harley?
Yeah, that's a great. I mean, it's not it's definitely not $25. It's like 175 or 180 bucks.
Okay.
But it is literally, it's like the size of a quarter or a 50-cent piece. Actually, it's smaller than a 50-cent piece. It's completely wireless. You'll see when you start doing research that there are tons of wireless mics. Rode makes great ones, Shure makes great ones. My problem with some of those is that they're a little bulky, and if you try to pin them, they kind of make your clothes flop around or whatever. You'll see a lot of people, I think, notice that, and so they just start to hold them like a regular microphone, which I go like, well, the whole point is to be hands-free, but you do you. But yes, I love the Hollyland Lark M2. Again, not sponsored. It's a great microphone. Connects to iPhone, connects to Android, and it connects to a DSLR if you want. And it has like 1,000 feet of range. I mean, you can go on a football field and use this thing.
Oh, that's awesome. So also, again, right. Oh, sorry, I interrupted you.
Please. No.
I was just going to say, think about what's right for you. I know we're coming up to the end of this, so I want to get to those kind of added pieces because I knew there was a lot to cover in this one. But again, more expensive isn't better. More expensive is not better. It's find what's right for you and what creates those barrier of entries, ease of use, those kind of pieces. I see Kelsey is sharing a lot of links for some of the elements that we're talking about here. So if you're looking for specific ones, if you heard us mention one that you want to look more on, click on those links and you can have them saved on your tab. We will send out these names and things so that you can review them later. But just be aware that a microphone does improve. It does help, but find what you need. If you're in a quiet room, maybe you don't need anything. If you're doing a ton of home walkthroughs and there's a lot of construction people around, maybe that's where you go, I need a lavalier. I need something extra just to make sure I'm creating a really clear sound, because I do think that affects a lot of the value. They can't get the value if they can't hear you. So it's really important for them to get that. Real quick here, and then we're going to jump into some of the features here, is I do want to talk about background. We get questions about this all the time. It's not necessarily a technical tool you're going to buy, but stuff to think about. One, don't overthink it. People look way less at your background than we actually think. So don't really worry about it. If you're providing a good, concise value in a 1 to 2 minute video, they shouldn't be staring at your background. They should be looking at you and getting that information across. So don't overthink it. Now, there's a caveat to that. Don't go record a video in your laundry room with piles of laundry behind you. Maybe that's not what you want to represent. But if you're in a general normal area, people are not going to pick it apart. So don't worry about that too much. If you do want to be intentional, pick items that tell a story. I cannot tell you the number of situations I've heard realtors, salespeople, where somebody decided to work with them because they did see something random in the background that was meaningful. Whether it was a sports team thing, or there you go, Harley J is going full logo now with the virtual background. But again, like, I'm not going to get into the virtual background discussion. I've got thoughts about that. But if you're going to use it, be intentional. Do something that means something. Don't just throw a fake beach behind you. That's just confusing and weird. So put sports team stuff, put family pictures. I mean, Harley's got the John Lennon peace sign in front of the Statue of Liberty. I know he's a musician. I know he lived in New York for a while. If somebody sees that, maybe they ask questions. Oh, where did you live? I lived in this borough. I lived here. You're creating real connection. So those are important things. Create those opportunities. Allow people in.
That's a good tip, Kev.
What?
That's a good tip.
It's again, don't feel like you have to go find all these things because you're not going to get asked a lot of the time. But I've got all sorts of funny stories of somebody had a picture that their kids drew like on their fridge, and somebody saw it and was like, "Oh my gosh, that reminded me of my kids. I just now I know you're a family man. I'm going to work with you." Like weird things like that we hear all the time. So have things that mean something. That's the kind of moral. And also create depth. Try not to sit in front of a flat wall that's a foot behind you. That just kind of creates a weird atmosphere there. So just keep that in mind when we're talking about background stuff. Quick best practices, and then I want to announce these new features to you all now that we're at the top of the hour, and we'll be done in just a few minutes here. I will stick around. We'll answer Q&A for a few minutes if you guys have it. But quick questions that I get all the time is, where do I put my camera? Eye level. You got to have it eye level or maybe even a little higher. If you put it down here and you're looking down on it, I promise you will not look good. So these are those cinematography things. Yeah, you're getting shadows, you're getting wrinkles. Yeah, Harley's giving us a great example of how that can look. So eye level, easy rule of thumb, just make sure it's right there. Framing. We can talk about shots all day long. We don't need to get into that. What we need to know is what is good framing. My general rule of thumb is reach your hand out and touch with the tip of your finger, just touch your camera. If you do that, boom, I'm in a pretty good spot, right? I'm not too close. I'm not too crowded. I've got room to move. Easy way to frame yourself. You're in a nice kind of like shoulder high mid shot and you're good to go. So the other thing I'll throw in there, and we talked a little bit about this, Harley, you brought it up with the sheet, but if you choose natural or artificial, be able to control it. I promise you, I love natural lighting, but man, there are times a day when I cannot just use my window because the sun is blaring in, or it's on the opposite side and I'm getting nothing from it, right? So have blinds, have curtains, have a ring light that you can adjust that. The more you can control it, the less barrier of entry there is to be recording those videos because you can hop on and make it work for you right at that moment. Doesn't mean it's always perfect, but you've got to be able to control it to some degree, and blinds or something on your windows helps massively if you're using that natural kind of front face lighting there. So last quick thing, and then let's jump into some of these features here. I just saw this quote from Robert Redford. I think most of us know who he is, but I love it. The technology available for filmmaking now is incredible, but I'm a big believer that it's all in the story. And that really goes back to what we said an hour ago of the authenticity. Be real, be passionate, be you, get the value across. That's what people need to see a heck of a lot more than this is the fanciest video, this is the cleanest video, this is the nicest whatever. We can get lost in those things, so don't do that. All right, so let's jump in. I want to show you guys real fast here, and you guys are the first people to hear about this. So the 300 or so, 250 of you that are still here, you're the first ones to hear about these things that are in the pipeline. These are coming out soon. Last month, we talked about the video trimming, how you can now trim the middle of videos out, and you can kind of edit together and do that really cleanly. That is live for a majority of users. So look for that in your account. We are still kind of rolling it out slowly to make sure that that release is seamless, but look for it. You might have it. Some of the new releases that are coming out in the very near future, 4K. We are going to be supporting 4K video in the very near future. Right now, we don't because they're big. They're big video files. So we had to make sure we had a solid system in place. But for those of you that want nice cameras, want to use DSLRs, want to turn the 4K on your phone and use it because it's really clean, guess what? BombBomb will deliver that very, very soon. We are beta testing it internally. We're playing with it, but it's really, really clean. So really good quality stuff. The second one that I think is a really, really fun feature is we're going to be launching video stitching. This is something we've heard from people time and time again. Can I take multiple videos and put them together into one video? Yeah, now you'll be able to. You can come in and grab a couple of videos, stitch them together, and we'll make one seamless video that just cuts from one to the other. So a lot of people have asked, can I do an intro video? Can I do this and then plug it into my other videos? Guess what? Now you'll be able to. because you can do that really seamlessly. So if you've got the videos in your BombBomb account, you can take them, stitch them together, and it creates one simple video that you can then send on that's got those multiple pieces together. So really fun. We've heard the home tour or those sort of type of things where you're out and about. Great. Record that on your phone, save it in your BombBomb account. Then you can come back on your computer, stitch it together with a quick intro that you record, and you've got an awesome video that's going to look really professional, look really clean, and put you in a really nice light. So really excited that this will be coming in the near future. I've already used it a couple of times, and it's been a fun thing to play with. The last one that I want to show you is a fun one that honestly came from requests. Video banners. You're going to be able to turn on a banner in your video that just has a quick title. It's got an introduction, a title. You can put really in these text fields whatever you want to, so you can have fun with them. But for those of you that are doing cold outreaches, that are doing things like that, and you just want to make sure people know your name, you would not believe with the name Kevin Andrews how many replies I get to, "Hey, Andrew, thanks so much for the video. Really appreciate it. I'm going to start using this." They will know that it is Kevin. I've gotten it my whole life, so it's not new. But you will now be able to start implementing this. You put it on before you record, and then it just sits there the whole video. So you've got that piece. So it doesn't interrupt the CTA. If you want to put that in the top corner, that can still fit there. But you can see we're kind of ramping up some of these added editing features that people have been asking for. And it's, again, not to create barrier of entry, not to make it more complicated, but we want to give you all the tools that you're wanting, that you're asking for, that you need to make your lives a heck of a lot easier recording and sending some of those sort of things. So yeah, please throw in questions, thoughts in chat about any of that stuff. Again, I don't have an exact release date because we always want to test and test and test and make sure they're as clean as we can before we release them. But those will be coming in the near future. If you love these, if you love the webinars on a monthly basis, we got one coming up next month that's really focused around CX. So it's a little bit different, more strategy driven in this one. But we're going to be talking about the 4 best videos to elevate your client appreciation. No, I don't care what role you're in. We want people to like us. We want to build that loyalty. We want to build the repeat and referral. Those are all terms we all kind of know. So that's what we're talking about, is how do you establish that CX experience? How do you build that appreciation so that we've got clients that are coming back and doing some fun things there? So Kelsey has been killing it with the Q&A. The Q&A is a little quieter today, which is great. But thank you, Kelsey, for hopping on and doing that. I don't see, we've got a few questions popping up here. Teleprompters. That's a really good one. I actually saw one. Let me see if I put this in my notes. We don't have a teleprompter built into BombBomb, so just that's okay. I always recommend write bullet points out for yourself rather than be sitting and reading on a video. But if you are somebody that really wants it, I did find one online that's free. It's cueprompter.com, CUE prompter.com. You can copy and paste it in, and then you can set the speed that it scrolls and do those sort of things. So if you want to use one, that's one that I've played with a little bit and it's worked. But again, my rule of thumb is always give yourself a couple bullet points and then talk. Allow to focus on that recipient and be natural with it. Do you ever use teleprompters for anything, Harley?
I like professional, like in jobs and whatever, sure. But I started using a teleprompter for the exact thing you're saying, like to make bullet points of stuff. And I put this app on my phone. It's called Teleprompter, but it ends in an R instead of ER. It's free.
Because that makes it edgier. It's cool.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's way cooler. But to give you an idea, I know we're running short, so I won't go into this. I'll do it like this. I'll have a teleprompter here on my phone, and then I can do this whole thing. The reason why I started doing that, just to give you an idea, one, it is hard to sound completely natural when you're reading a teleprompter. So the idea of doing bullet points and kind of knowing what you're doing is I think, a better option than a teleprompter. I will say a major bonus of a teleprompter is obviously you've already scripted out or written out what you're going to say. So if you have that script written out, you can now use everything that you've done with the teleprompter and the video to do multiple videos or multiple posts. You can take the teleprompter text and put it on LinkedIn. You can make 2 or 3 different videos from the video you made. And all of that stuff is just to make one video. But now you've got 3 or 4 different areas you can post and 3 or 4 different pieces of content that you can get out there from one thing.
There you go. Let's be productive, right? Let's spend a little bit of time to create more opportunities for us, right? So, and to the point as well, and we don't need to get deep down this rabbit hole, but You can also use nicer, fancier videos and upload them into your BombBomb account to have to send out to people. Maybe using your example earlier, Harley, of what is one big mistake that sellers are making is they're pricing too high originally, right? If that's a frequently asked question I'm getting a lot, maybe I've got the video, throw it in BombBomb. You've got unlimited space, unlimited videos, save it in there, name it something that you can find. So if somebody asks or needs it, you've got it. You've got it readily available to kind of play with. So use these things in different ways. You don't have to create one video for one medium, and that's not how it always has to work. You can play with this and have fun with it. You can use raw, authentic stuff on social media. You can use fancier stuff in BombBomb. Know that there is crossover with any of these. I saw one other question from Andrea here, and then I think we'll jump off. Kelsey, maybe you already answered it, but if you do sit somewhere close to the wall behind you, is it better to have the camera face toward the corner, or is there another way to add depth? That's a really interesting question. Do you have any thoughts on that, Harley?
Well, that is a great question. I don't know if this is going to be completely helpful, but when you get a little more into cameras and stuff, there are things called leading lines. This is too much, but I set up my camera in this way because the leading line literally goes right behind my head. You can see like the area that everything is pointed towards one area. So if you're, in my opinion, if you're up against a flat wall and you can't add depth, I think it's fine to put like something behind or paint the wall a color or whatever. In my taste, I don't love when it's obvious that you have like big bold art. Like if I had artwork right here, to me, I feel like that's maybe a little distracting. And I try to just stick with keeping it here, but that's an opinion thing. Like you might really love it. And if you do, and it makes you make videos, do it. That's totally fine.
I do love the leading line thing. I did that as well. You can see I've got the corner kind of leading behind because it's drawing all of the attention to who? Us, which is what we want them to be paying attention to, right? So that is an interesting thought, Andrew, with the corner there. You can always, one of the things I have seen people do to kind of cheat depth a little bit is put really thin little shelves up there that you can then create leaning. So it almost creates a little bit of depth. Even if we're talking inches, it creates a little something to play with. But using corners and things like that is great. And also just do what makes you feel comfortable. If you feel uncomfortable and nervous about this, it's going to come across on the video. If you're not thinking about it and you're confident, people aren't going to think about it that much. So don't stress about it. So, all right, everybody. Hey, thank you all so much for being here. You all stuck around, and hopefully we gave you some education, some things to think about. We will be sending out the recording here. We'll be sending out the slide deck so you can review any of the actual recommendations that we're making on this. So please feel free to review that. Harley J, thank you so much for being here, man, and giving us some of your time. You brought so much thought and context to it that I would never have come up with. So thank you, man.
Oh my gosh. No, thank you. Thank you for having me. To everyone watching too, not to take up more time, if you have questions or you want other stuff, or I can help out in any way with video, or if you have real estate questions, or if you just have like stuff you want to know, shoot me a message on Instagram, TikTok. You can email me. This is harleyj@gmail.com. Whatever you'd like, but please like reach out and let's hang out. This was great. Thank you.
You're awesome, man. We really appreciate it. We love bringing in experts and what they're doing, and you're doing some really cool, creative, fun stuff. And we thank you for imparting that knowledge on us. So thank you all so much. Reach out to us here at BombBomb if you need any help. If you need anything, we're always here to help you with that. In fact, we've got BombBomb Studios where we've got a course all about director of photography, cinematography, this kind of stuff. So go look for that within your accounts. But until next time, until next month, thank you all. You are part of the BombBomb family. We love you. We care about you so, so much. You are what keeps us coming back to work every day. So thanks for being a part of this journey with us. And we can't wait to see you next May to start talking about some customer experience stuff. So thank you, everybody. Have a great day. We'll see you next month.